So we're going to go ahead and get started here shortly as soon as Rick comes into the room. But I really encourage you guys, regardless if you've done a workshop or done a business planning workbook, if you guys don't have a copy of the workbook, please drop your email into the chat box right now, and I'll be more than happy to send it out right away. So yeah, I put a post. The reason why we're even having this workshop is because I put a social media post out there that said, hey, I got an excellent workbook that you guys all should, use, right? And the man that actually gave me the workbook is this man here, Mr. Rick Geha. And he's a national coach. He's an amazing human being, and he's just been instrumental to my success, here throughout my process at EXP. So I just really appreciate you guys all being here and tuning in. And I will send out, as soon as Rick starts the workshop, for those of you that don't have a copy of the workbook, I'll go ahead and send it out to you guys right away. And just to share a little bit about Rick, something that I love about him is that, he's an amazing person and just so giving. And I love his authenticity. It's just every time that I talk to Rick and I hear him speak, I feel uplifted. I feel, bigger. And Rick, I just really appreciate you taking this time to speak to the group today. And I know that you got a lot of things that you're doing out there, man. So thank you for being here, brother. And I know you're going to share your story and get into the workbook. And I know you gave us an hour, so I want to make sure that we're conscious of your time as well.
Well, great. Thank you, buddy, very much. And I'm really super excited because one thing that I love about Leo and that always makes me want to be around him, do things with him, is his love for growth. He's always learning to be a bigger, better version of himself. I like to say he's the half my age version of me, only because when I was his age, I was managing a real estate office and really working to become a better person overall, and of course a better realtor and leader. Now behind Leo, you can see it says "Think Bigger." And if you saw when you got onto the panel today, or when you got on today, he had something saying "Dream Bigger." And I want to bust right in because I generally do this in about 90 minutes. And I really want to make sure I give it its due. Really quickly, my name's Rick Geha. As he said, I just celebrated 40 years selling homes in Northern California. I've been coaching and speaking for about 27 years. I started doing that in 1993. And I have a lot of passion for that. The company I coach for now is called Workman Success Systems. I'm not selling coaching today. I just want you to know, if you're looking for a coach, I'm not interested in any more coaching clients, but the coaches at Workman Success Systems are incredible, incredible. They coach differently than any coaching company that you've ever heard of, no matter what you think you've heard of. And they do it in such an effective way. So I want to leave that with you. Leo will make sure you get a workbook if you don't already have one. I see that there's some things in the chat about that. I'm sure he'll get you your workbook. This is the workbook right here today. But before we bust into the workbook, we're not filling the workbook out today. We are going to talk mostly about this, like the different things that go on in our head when we approach a business plan workbook, when we think about what we're doing next year, when we even plan like what's next week going to be look like for us. So I want to really break into that subject right away. Why was it big for Leo to put on the big of this, a Dream Bigger conference or a Dream Bigger workshop? It's very simple. The mindset that you have to look forward to the best year you've ever had is a mindset that most of us don't carry naturally, okay? So there's the difference between all of the things going on inside of you, that reaction, those opinions, those perspectives. Most of them come from a limited thinking that's based on reaction and looking at your past. Your past failures should only be this, a stepping stone to your future successes. That's all, right? How many people do you know climb a stairs and when they get to the top of the stairs go, wow, did I come all that way? Like nobody does that. When they get to the top of the stairs, what do? They keep going to where they're going. And that climb, that climb, do you have times when you slipped and fallen back down the stairs? Yes. When people see that I've been in real estate for 40 years, there's two things they can possibly say. Congratulations. Or the other thing they might say is, oh, I'm really sorry for you. See, what happens in real estate, and if you ever want to hear more about this, you should probably get in contact with Leo directly or whoever invited you to the seminar today. But here's the thing. In real estate, we think more about what we're doing now, more about what we're doing next week than we ever think about how we're going to get out of real estate. Okay? Like, that was never on my mind. I got into real estate at 22 years old, right? And I was like, I'm going to kick some butt, right? I'm going to make some money. Yeah, I did all that. I also lost a ton of money. I also made some decisions that weren't really good for my future retirement. So I found myself in my 30th year in the real estate industry broke. Think about that. I had no idea how I would ever retire, right? And you might say, well, what's this got to do with business planning? I'll tell you what it's got to do with it. You have to start today. I don't care if you're older than me or younger than me. I already told you I'm 63. I'm proud of it. But whether you're older than me or younger than me, you have to start putting together a plan for how will I stop working? Look, I had 70 relatives in real estate, 70 of them when I got into real estate in 1980. 2 of them recently died. This is in the past 6 or 7 years. My 2 favorite uncles, my mom's brothers, they're both her younger brothers. One of them died 9 hours after an open house. Sad, right? Still working, late 70s, selling real estate for almost 50 years. A couple years later, his younger brother dies in his real estate office on a Friday night. They didn't even find him till Sunday. Not a good story. And yet, you know when that happened? Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks in the face. I thought, oh my God, that's going to be me. I have no way to retire. I'm going to just keep working until I die at an open house. There are much better ways to go. My wife, who used to be a realtor many years ago, still retains her license, always says, ask anybody you know how many realtor retirement parties they've been to. I overheard her tell somebody, which was a true fact, that I've been to more realtor funerals in the past 5 years than I've been to realtor retirement parties in my entire life. Do you get that? That's not a great statistic. That falls on us individually, not on the industry, not on our brokerage, not on anything but our decisions. All right? So here's the big thing that you want to remember. When we, in the coaching world, we all talk, right? We get coaching meetings, coach training. You know what we realize that is really a big deal is that the difference between the lowest producers we coach and the highest producers we coach has nothing to do with anything: sex, color, race, religious background, education background. None of that matters. It only matters, one thing only matters, and the difference between the lowest producers we coach and the highest, and that is the activities that you focus on in a day, period. All right? The reason behind a great business plan workbook, and the reason I love this workbook, is it helps you decide what you're going to focus on in the day. Right? But let me ask you, one of Leo's favorite questions: when did you stop dreaming big? Think about it. It's tough to remember. It's tough to pinpoint the day that the guilt, the shame, the depression, the anxiety, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not handsome enough, I don't have enough money. When all of the I'm not enoughs began, you stopped dreaming big. I know I did. I can almost pinpoint it to 2005, my 25th year in the business. Like, I can remember starting to set lower goals and, take things as they came. That didn't serve me. It's not a horrible thing. It's not a good, bad, right, or wrong thing. It's just, does the way you believe and think and dream, is that working for you to get where you want to go? That's all. Think about that. Is it? Right? When I think about all of these things every single day. You don't want to be in my head. It's a hard place to be, right? But I also don't want to trade places with anybody. No matter what I've gone through, the financial disasters from owning franchises and making, decisions that weren't effective for my future, all of those things. But what I can tell you now And over the past 6 or 7 years, I've been using this workbook, and I've been driving my business, my team forward, so that we can create something that allows us all, from the 19-year-old on my team to the 63-year-old on my team, a plan to get out, to stop one day. All right. Now, I want to honor everything, all of you, first, for being on here. Number two, for making sure that you understand one thing. When people look at business plan workbooks or thinking about what I'm going to do in the future, guess what happens? Society, I want you to listen to this for a minute. Society has trained us. We have two things that raise us in our environment. It's society around us and our major adult influencers. Notice I didn't say parents, because not everybody was influenced by their parents. Some their grandparents, some uncles and aunts, some people that they just watched from a distance as they grew up, who made them or helped them to make decisions about themselves that were either effective for growth or weren't. Now, I know that's a little complicated the way I said it, but I want you to think for a minute. What were your adult influences giving you messages about? Now, remember, it's never their fault. Don't blame anybody for the decisions you've made, the choices you've opted for yourself, because they all came out of one thing. Listen to this carefully, and I got to tell you, this is what's changed my life in the last several years, is that when you witnessed things that go on between your parents, things they said to each other, things you heard other adults say to other adults, you listened to that and you made decisions about yourself. Okay? If you were a man, you made decisions about what it meant to be a man based on the male demonstrations around you. If you're a woman, you made decisions about what it means to be a woman, right? You put restrictions and limiting beliefs on yourself based on the environment you grew up on. Not your parents' fault, your decisions. You made decisions about yourself. Those became limiting beliefs in a lot of cases. For some, they became amazing beliefs that took them to stardom in many ways for themselves, right? The idea of what success is to one versus what success is to another. You know, in my wife's business, she's been in the network marketing business for the last 13 years. She sees people who develop businesses that pay them $4,000 a month, and they're ecstatic, and they never want to push past that, and they're happy. It's not ours to judge. $4,000 a month? Wait, you're settling? That's it? No, it's none of your freaking business. And when you make it your business, you're taking the time, the energy, the perspective off of you and what you need for you, period. But she has people in that same business that do $300,000 a month. And they're always striving for even more. That's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's what they want for them. What do you want for you? And that brings up the part of the business plan workbook that I like talking about most, is this paradigm, this belief that we were raised in society, that if I set a goal and I miss it, I suck. That's just a belief you've decided on. That doesn't mean it's a truth. It's just a belief, right? Because if I set a goal and I miss it, I'm going to think to myself, do I suck? Well, guess what? I believed that too all the way up until 2003. And 17 years ago, I sat in a class and the guy said, what if you changed your belief to believe if you set a goal and hit it, the goal was too low? What if that were your belief? And I was in a room with about 65 people and we're all looking at me like, that's not a bad perspective. You mean I set a goal and I hit it, the goal was too low. Well, what does that mean? Well, he started talking to me about this thing you've all probably heard by now called big, hairy, audacious goals. It's a pretty common BHAG theme. And the more I listened to him, he said, what if you changed your perspective to believe that you had to set a goal so high, so scary, so hairy, so audacious, that it scared the crap out of you, and that it's such a big goal that if you only got halfway there, you were better off than the mediocre goal you would have set otherwise. Like climbing Mount Everest. All the training it takes to climb Mount Everest. And guess what? Over 90% of the people, I think it's over 95% of the people that set out to climb Mount Everest to the top, right? Of course, why would you climb out Mount Everest to the bottom or to the middle? But people who set their goal to, get to the peak of Mount Everest, and over 95% of them only get halfway on their first attempt. Not always just halfway, but they certainly don't make the top. But guess what? Once they've made where they've made, if they stop and look around, they're at 0.1% of the highest peaks in the world, probably a height that they had not scaled up till now. But they wouldn't have done it unless they set their goal for much higher. They prepped, they studied, they practiced, they climbed, they did all the things they need to do. What about us in real estate, right? I mean, think about it. I'm setting bigger, more hairy, more audacious goals at 63 years old than I ever did in my entire life, right? Because you know everything is possible now. You get that. And if you don't get it, then take my word for it. Everything is possible, right? I mean, think about it. The guy ran the 4-minute mile, Roger Bannister, when they believed there's no way physically, doctors were saying that there was no physical way a body could run 4 miles, a 4-minute mile. How many people have run it since he did? Oh, I don't know, 14 to 1,500, right? In less than 2 weeks after he did it, other people had done it. Why? Because mentally, it was done out there. Well, if someone can do it, I can do it, right? I mean, I remember the first time I met a man who had done 1,000 transactions in real estate in a year. I mean, I wanted to kiss his foot. Of course, kissing his foot wasn't going to really get me any of the benefit of what he knew and what he did. But man, I was like 1,000, and he worked 30 hours a week. 30 hours a week. Right? What did I do? I had to blow away the old brain and put a new one in, one that saw things from a bigger perspective. And that's the reason for a business plan workbook. But guess what? We still, human beings, naturally, behaviorally avoid business plan workbooks. I mean, there's companies, every major company out there hands out business plan workbooks, and people have it. And what happens? They fold it up and they use it to keep the door open on a windy day, like it's not being used, because there's a fear associated with doing a business plan workbook. And it's a fear that's based on scarcity and lack of worthiness. Why? Because you go, well, if I fill this out and then I don't do it, right? That's crap. I want you to give this workbook its due. It's going to take you tons and tons of time to give it what it needs. Okay? It's probably 15 to 17 hours, maybe more, to do it really, really well the first time. And if you use the same workbook next year, you're going to have a lot less work because you'll have done the majority of the things that take the majority of the time. All right? So I want you to stop for a second and think to yourself. You can put it in the chat. I can't see the chat right now, but Leo can. Think about what I've said. And if you had a quick aha or a quick question, throw it in there. But I'm not going to stop unless Leo says, hey, I found something that I want you to address. But I want you thinking about, what are you feeling right now deep inside about some of the things I've said that may or may not have resonated with you? See, everything I'm saying resonates with me because I am you. You are me. We are real estate agents struggling to meet the demands that we put on ourselves. All right? What do I mean by that? Well, we put demands on ourselves to become better, to be more productive, to make more money. And all money is a tool. If you understand that, that's what's important. Money is a tool that allows us to use that tool to change lives, hopefully our own first, to do some things we hadn't been able to do, to spend more time with your loved ones, to take vacations, to whatever it is that you want to do. But here's the other thing. Do you ever remember somebody in your life saying, you're better than that? That's, you wimp, you could do better than that. That's a wimpy goal, right? I can remember coaches that I saw coach for many years. They'd say, that's your goal? Double it, triple it. You know, and then Grant Cardone comes around and says, 10 times it. That's all valid and good once you decide it works for you. What do I mean by that? Don't shame yourself into setting goals that are someone else's goals. Do you get this? That means if your mom said, my mom was ecstatic that I wanted to be a dentist, right? I did. I got rejected by 13 dental schools. That's how I ended up in real estate, right? But she wasn't unhappy when I went into real estate because all of her relatives were in real estate also. But why do I say that? I say, are we living our dreams, or are we living the dreams someone else told us to live? Right? Think about that. My mom and dad told me, Rick, grow up, be a good boy, get good grades in school. All right? Then you go on to college, you get good grades in college, you get a good job, you meet a nice family girl, preferably Lebanese, which is what I was, or what I am. And then you have a family and you live happily ever after. 2005 came around, my wife and I separated after 22 years of marriage and 2 sons, right? That wasn't in my mom and dad's plan. But you know what I realized? It took me until my late 40s till I realized that almost everything I'd done in my life, I'd done because someone else told me that that's what you were supposed to do. Not because at any moment in time did I sit down and say, this is what I want for me, and this is how I will go get what I want for me. It wasn't until I turned 51 years old that I had an idea that I needed to do more personal development, more personal growth to understand what I want for me. Okay, think about that. You have habits that are not effective for where you want to go. You do things on a regular basis, as I do, that do not help you get where you want to go. Those are not bad habits. They're just ineffective. They're just not working for where you want to go. Think about that. I see people all the time tell me, well, I have diabetes. Well, do you have type 1 or type 2? Type 2. Well, type 2 is totally curable without medication. It's by diet, sleep, and exercise. Period. You can get rid of type 2 diabetes. And I'm not a physician, okay? But I know that for a fact because of the amount of diabetes in my family. But then I might see that same person stick their hand in a jar and pull out, I just saw this of a person who has type 2 diabetes recently, a handful of pretzels that have peanut butter in them, and then start popping them one at a time. I'm like, what? You're a type 2 diabetic and you're popping pretzels with peanut butter in them, right? All I'm saying is we are constantly making decisions that don't help us, but we're doing it because we're not living in our dream. We're not living in our goals. We're living in someone else's expectations. Create your own. Use this business plan workbook to do that, to start really looking at it. And why am I so excited that we're doing this in November? Because once you get that workbook done, and I would really love to challenge you, today's only the 12th, right? So you've got 19 more days in the year, 18 or 19 more days in the month, that you could get this done, so that you have all of December as a warm-up platform for 2021, the 21st year in the 21st century. It could be amazing, right? I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Yes.
But it has to start with you believing. What were you saying, Leo?
I would say yes, it could absolutely be, man. And I'm getting, I have a couple of comments here in the chat box, and it's everybody's talking about the same thing, thinking bigger, big, hairy, audacious goals. People could totally relate to this. And a couple of the things that somebody put in here, how do you counterattack the negative thoughts that keep coming into your mind? What are the things that you could share, with people that could make a difference?
Oh my God, I get so chilled when I hear great questions like that. I almost get emotional because guess what? We were put on this earth to not work alone, to not be alone, to not do alone. Okay. When I used to be with Keller Williams for many years, I used to own 9 Keller Williams Realty franchises. And one thing Gary Keller said all the time was, people do not succeed alone. Right. And that was one of his favorite sayings. Now, I'd heard that saying from a guy that was one of my bosses many years before, but it didn't seem to resonate with me as much. And I'll tell you why. When I had 9 real estate franchises, and I don't know who asked that, Leo, but that is such a great thing to ask. Okay, it's one thing to listen to this webinar and Rick's talking and he's all hyped up. So now I'm hyped up, but how do I keep that long after the moment is gone, right? Have you ever said something, yeah, let's do that, right? Like how a football team yells at the beginning of the game, right? And as they're getting their butts kicked, they're like, right? Yeah. It's the same thing. So oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Let me go back to what we're talking about, which is how do I keep that? One of the greatest things about understanding collaboration and help, what I was telling you is when I had 9 offices, we had 1,000 agents in those 9 offices, there was only 2 things that I prayed nightly that they would do to help themselves. And that was number 1, lead generate. Okay. And number 2 was to ask for help. Ask for help. Neither of those things, lead generation or asking for help, behaviorally are a natural behavior, meaning if you've heard of behavioral styles like DIRS or C or any of those things, there's a ton of them out there, but there's always 4 major behavioral styles. None of those behaviors naturally want to either lead generate or ask for help, right? So it actually sets you up for failure because you're getting into a business where lead generating and asking for help will get you the most success ever. When you talk about the biggest succeeding real estate agents out there, what have they done? They've hired coaches. What is that? That's paying for help, right? Like there's been so many of my mentors that have said, look, others, this is a big, remember this quote, others have lived before you. What does that mean? Others have been here. Go find them and sit and talk to them and they'll tell you the path, right? Anthony Robbins used to say, the greatest successes in the world are simply professional modelers. They model themselves after others before them. Why do people go to coaching? Why do people go to seminars? Because they can hear what everybody else is doing. But the more we say, even to our friend right over there, right there at the brokerage right next door, grab them and say, dude, I'm suffering, man. What are you doing? You might find they're suffering. You might find they're succeeding. And you say, well, what are you doing? What are you doing to keep up? So the number one thing that has to happen for me, I got to tell you, married for the second time, very happy, is I've got to have collaboration with my wife. She's my business partner. It might not be your wife or your husband, and it's okay, right? People tell me, well, you married into that. I know, I got lucky, but not everybody does. Here's what I want you to think about. Who is that person I want to collaborate with? Who's the kind of people I want to surround myself with? And that's the biggest thing, is every day choose who you're going to surround yourself with. My wife calls them 8s, 9s, and 10s. And a lot of times you say that, you mean 8s, 9s, and 10s, like hot looking, good looking? No. I've got some 8, 9s, and 10s in my life that are flat out ugly, but I love them. And you know why? Because they bring to me. They collaborate with me. They pour into my life, and they allow me to pour into theirs. Here's something I'm going to tell you. In 2006, a lady started pursuing me to take a personal development course. She pursued me once or twice a month for 2 years to take the personal development course. Right? Finally, I gave her a chance to tell me about it. We went to sit down at a late lunch. It was 3 p.m. And we sat down to talk about it. She was like much younger than me and told me all these things about life and results and all of that. And finally, I stopped her and I said, you know, this course sounds amazing. And I'm sorry that over the 2 years that you pursued me, I never stopped to listen to what this course might give me, tools that will allow me to be more successful, to take better care of myself and become a bigger, better version of myself. I said, but what I really want to ask you is why? I mean, come on. You barely know me and you pursued me for 2 years, twice a month for 2 years to take this course. And you've already told me you're not getting paid to get people to take the course. You're just doing it because you have such a passion for how it changed your life. And I said this, I said, of all the people you pursued, which it sounds like you pursued a lot about this, why me? You know, she sat back with a certain confidence and she said, oh, that's easy, Rick. She said, I see you much bigger than you see yourself. To this day, that causes me emotion. That somebody else who barely knew me saw me bigger, more powerful than I saw myself. That young lady is my wife now, right? Like that's not going to happen for everybody. But once you realize that you are much more powerful than you allow yourself to believe, I started taking those personal development courses and I realized I had not taken care of me. I just wanted to help the world. But by helping the world, I was overweight, I was unhealthy, I was unhappy, I had horrible habits. And what did I have to do? I had to start collaborating with me to become the best version of myself. In other words, start working on me. The more I had what I wanted, the more my businesses succeeded, the more healthy I was, then there was more people I could contribute to, that I could give to, much more. Right? That's what the secret is it's not being selfish. It's putting yourself first, so that, like, I know people who care for every member of their family so deeply, yet they are sick and dying. And they won't stop and take care of themselves. I want to be here to take care of my sons. I want to be here to take care of my wife. How do I have to do that? Then I have to stay healthy and happy and considerate, right? I got to be doing what I got to do to fulfill me so that I'll have the energy to help others. And when she said that to me that day, it was all I could do. She was much younger than me. She's 18 years younger than me. I thought, I'm not going to let this lady see me cry. And I had this big lump in my throat. I go, why? I had loving parents, a loving family, yet I never heard those words come out of someone's mouth. I see you bigger than you see yourself. And I decided within a few months of that conversation that I wanted to surround myself with people who saw me bigger than myself. People who wouldn't take my crap and say, Rick, you're bigger and better than that. But guess what else? I wanted to be that person for others. I wanted to be the guy who saw Leo bigger than Leo saw himself. Like, I wanted that. I wanted to surround. That's where the 8s, 9s, and 10s come from. Surround yourself with people who see you bigger than you see yourself and won't tolerate you acting any differently. They'll hold up a nice little mirror and say, hey, Rick, you're saying this, but this is what you're doing, right? Your desire to be a bigger, better self, it might be coming out of your mouth, but your actions aren't proving it. I mean, it's as simple as the same thing as you say to yourself when you wake up in the morning, today's the day. I'm going to go get a lead today because that's what I get paid to do in real estate. Oh, and all this other stuff comes up and suddenly it's more important. Now you're getting into bed several hours later and you're like, oh crap, I never did get that lead. Of course you didn't. Lead generating is your least favorite thing in the world, and it's easy to find stuff. I mean, I've heard of agents tell me they're going to lead generate all day, and then I call them and say, what happened? They go, oh, I cleaned out my coat closet. What? How long has your coat closet needed cleaning out? About 8 years. Oh, you decided to do it today, the day of your lead generation, right? Right? How many of you have a junk drawer? You all have junk drawers, right? That drawer, everything falls in. You open it and go, oh, shit, one day I'm going to have to clean this up. And then you just shut it. But no, if I tell you to lead generation, you go, I'd love to, but I've got to clean the junk drawer out today. What? Right? Now, that is resonating with you. So if you're fighting with keeping that positivity, find your person. Find your person. There is a song, there is about 3 or 4 songs that I like because no matter how crappy my mood is, my foot starts tapping, right? And I start kind of doing this. And so there was a time, I'm not doing it as much now because I'm booked so solid all day, but there was a time when I had 6 alarms set on my phone in a day, and they went about every 90 minutes to 3 hours, depending on what parts of the day. And when it would go off, the alarm would go off with that song, one of those songs. And I would catch myself like this. The song would go on. I'd go, oh my gosh, I'm sulking. I'm in a crappy mood, right? Do you get what I'm saying? And then the song would whip you out of that. So maybe it's a song, maybe it's a smell. Like, I'm not a big fan of junk food, but have you been into a Panera when the baked goods are coming out of the oven? I mean, come on, you can be depressed and walk in there and go, oh, snickerdoodles, right? Like, I mean, I can get in a good mood just from smelling the food. Decide what it is that lights you up and find it. Set it up so that it'll be there to light you up. Now, I got to tell you, I love my wife very much, more than I ever thought I could love another human being other than my kids. And in the morning, like when I see her, she has, you know, her hair, she's got super long hair. It might be all messed up and she's kind of got her eyes like that. That makes me smile every morning, right? Find what it is. I don't know what yours is, but you do. And you don't let yourself have it because you think you're not worthy. Set it up, right? If it means having your alarm wake up to, you know, a rock and roll song or a country song or whatever it is, then do it, right? Or maybe you have someone call you to wake you up. Someone that when you hear their voice, I remember when my son was younger and he had his first job, of course, it was after he was 17, I'd already left his mother. He'd text me, he goes, Dad, would you mind wait? Because he knew I got up to play basketball at like 4:30 in the morning. He'd say, Dad, I got to get up by 6 tomorrow. Would you call me? Like, nothing made me happier. I'd set like 4 alarms to make sure I didn't forget to call him at 6, right? And he'd wake up and go, hello. And I go, son, it's your dad, right? Like that kind of stuff all lights you up. What is it? All right. So those are some of the best questions. Leo, I saw something else pop up on Q&A, but I don't know how to get to that when I'm
looking. Thank you, man. Everybody's loving it, man. I'm getting a bunch of positive feedback. And one of the things that they asked was, what book about success in business would you recommend is the best for real estate? That was one of the questions that came up.
Okay, so I got to say to that question that success in business is success in business. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Now, do I kind of separate commission sales out? Yeah, my wife's in the network marketing business, right? That is commission sales. That's lead generating, prospecting. But there's been several books, and I'm going to say a bunch of them, Leo, so it's on a recording. But you'd be surprised, if you don't mind a little foul language, You Are a Badass. The book called You Are a Badass is a great book. The book by Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, Willpower Doesn't Work. These are great books. You know, I haven't been with Keller Williams for over 5 years now, but one of the books that constantly was a push for my real estate sales business was the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, because it shows you how to build a real estate business that is process, sustainable, systematic, operationally correct. Workman success systems, for instance, that's something I would ask you all to do. Is if you want me to set you up for that, it's free. They do a free business consultation with you, whether you ever hire them as coaches or not. The first time I did a Workman Success Systems business consultation, I wrote down 15 ideas and went and put them in. Really some great stuff out there. But there's some real basics that allow the mindset and allow the business. And I'm going to give you 3 of them. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, written in 1908. Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill in 1937, right? The book that I use every week on my free Friday coaching calls right here, okay? The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. This right here is a book written about salespeople, okay? Now, I'll tell you, it's a Christian-based book, meaning he does mention God and his belief in God. If that scares you away, I'm still going to tell you, read the book. Read the book. Put aside your concerns, because you'll learn more. Even if you're not religious, even if you're an atheist, this book will help you in sales. Now, there's a lot of other great books. I've got literally libraries full back on the other side of the house. And I will continue, as I think of them, tell you to read them. In the mindset sector, Matthew Ferry, yes, the brother of Tom Ferry, the son of Mike Ferry, he has a book called Quiet Mind, Epic Life. And I got to tell you, if you've never taken personal development, it might be a tough read, but if you've taken some personal development, it's going to give you the biggest aha. And Matthew Ferry's mentor was a guy named Dr. David Hawkins, Doc Hawk, they called him. And I have several of Dr. Hawkins' books because of Matthew Ferry, but I haven't read them yet. And because I've been listening to Matthew so much, I think Matthew translates Dr. Hawkins very well. But there's a lot of great stuff out there that you should be doing in the business sense. And more than anything, there's probably the greatest real estate lessons I've ever gotten is listen to top agents tell me how they do it. And that's really, really important. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, brother.
Now we've only got 23 minutes left, and I want to honor the time, and I want to bust into this workbook, but I'm going to go through it quickly because hopefully now your mindset is in a receptive area, right? It's in an area where you go, okay, I can listen about the workbook now, because now I get why life isn't necessarily always going in the direction I want it to. But I want you to remember, here's the, can you see this okay, Leo, on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So the strategic plan, these are the table of contents. I'm not going to go through, I maybe could get through everything, but I really want to focus on the first 5 as we go through, and I'll spend a little more time on them. But the strategic plan is first for several reasons. The strategic plan is just simply saying, Stephen Covey wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. By the way, another great business book. He wrote it in 1989, 31 years ago. And habit number 2 was begin with the end in mind. In other words, decide what the end looks like. Where do I want to end up? Okay, so like I want to live to be 120. So what's it look like at, what's my life look like at 120? What's it look like at 100? What's it look like at 80? Okay, and what's it look like at 65, right? A couple of years from now. That's a strategic plan. When you're planning on both business and life, what do those 2 different things look like? One of the reasons I love this business plan workbook is it's the only business plan workbook I've ever seen that melds life and business together. And you'll see that when you do it. Now, when you go to sorry about that.
No problem.
Hold on. What the heck happened?
It's all good, my friend.
There you go.
Amazing. Thank you, sir.
All right. So here's the strategic plan. What do I want to achieve in my business in 5 years? And then look at the next question. I'm saying do it out there a bit, but this booklet is saying 5 years, 1 year, 6 months. So what do I want to achieve in my business in 5 years? And then look, question number 2, what do I want to achieve in my life in 5 years? I want you to remember big, hairy, audacious goals, thinking big. All right. And listen, let go. Here's why people don't fill out business plan workbooks. Another reason is their mind is preoccupied with how will I ever do that? Get that freaking question out of your mind when you're doing your business plan workbook. If you're committed, if you believe, then the help will show up on how that you're going to do that is going to happen. You'll be driven, right? Like I've had a goal for 3 years now to take 100 listings in 1 year. I've never done that in my career. I haven't done it last 3 years. But I know I keep talking to more and more people about how they've done 100 listings, right? Now, look at the next two questions. What do I want to achieve in my business in 1 year? And what do I want to achieve in my life in 1 year? And then the last one is, what do I achieve in my business and life in 6 months? You can do 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. You can do whatever you want, but a strategic plan is thinking outwards and then bringing it to today, okay? The last three questions, 7, 8, and 9, are the ones that are most important in the strategic plan, which is, how will I know I'm making progress? Guess what? You can't manage what you don't measure, okay? You cannot manage it if you're not measuring it. So track everything, Literally, this mess I have around me right now that you can't see, that's all over this dining room table here, is all my different tracking methods that I've got to get back into organization and hand over to my assistant. What's the biggest pain in my business right now? Like for most individual agents, you're preoccupied with, there's a team over there. Why in our team? None of your damn business why you're not on a team. Get back to work. You know, people say, I want to start a team, Rick. I go, how many leads do you have? And they go, 1. I go, good luck. You're not starting a team with 1 lead. You got to work to get more and more leads. Teams come out of necessity, not fashion. Okay. So if I start calling and I'm getting a lead, oh, I got a listing lead. Oh, I got a buyer lead. And pretty soon, if you're doing it consistently, you're going to have more leads than you personally can handle unless you're working 15 hours a day. So then you go, you know what? I mean, I need an admin. I need a little help. Maybe I'm going to get a transaction coordinator. Maybe I'm going to get a buyer's agent to take care of these buyers, and I'll keep listing more homes. It almost comes organically as long as you're doing the things you need to do. What's the biggest pain in my business right now? For most individual agents, it's lead generation. And for most teams, it's nurturing and conversion. I'll be honest with you, right? Right now, the biggest pain in my business is I'm trying to build more leverage, right? I need a really good listing specialist on my team. And, you know, but what is going really well for me in my business right now, it is leverage. Like my buyer's agents are performing at a great level. We're looking at who's going to be the lead buyer specialist. Really good things going on right now. You got to be honest, and you really got to ask these questions on a regular basis, typically once a month. Ask yourself these questions. Now, the next part of the book is the personal objectives. Now, when you get your book, make a note right now. When you get your book, this says family, faith, fun, friends, fitness, and I want you to add finances. There should be 6 F's, all right? Family, faith, fun, friends, fitness, and finances. And this allows you to look at the end of 2021 and say, what are my objectives in each of these areas, right? And remember, finances in this particular area are more about the money that you have left over after you've paid all of your real estate bills and things associated with your real estate business. Then the next one there is the core values. Really, really big deal on core values. This is about sitting and collaborating. The more you collaborate on this, even if you're an individual agent, who's your team when you're an individual agent? Mortgage, title, home warranty, insurance, inspections, all of those companies succeed because you succeed. So you should collaborate with all of those people, even if if it's just only you on your team, right? And that is your team in business. But if you're working on a team or in a team environment, then you can be working with those people. What are the core values that are most important to me? It's my business, right? And then I look at the people I collaborate with and say, you know, open my mind, help me open my mind some more. And that's the beautiful thing about coaching and collaboration, is not to tell you what your goal should be, because then it's not your goal, but to open your mind to what's possible so you can set bigger goals for yourself, so that you can dream bigger, right? Like that little speech I told you about where, you know, when was it that you stopped dreaming big? Like hopefully that opened your mind to think, when did I stop dreaming big? But don't dwell on that. Forget it. If you can't figure it out, just remember you're not dreaming as big as possible. So start today dreaming big, really big, right? I want to fly somewhere. Oh, what if my dream was even bigger and I own my own jet and I flew myself there, right? That's what I'm talking about, is open the perspective of what's truly possible. All right. Now you write the core values down, you know, integrity, belief, communication, competence, you know, even punctuality can be a core value. It's whatever lights you up and whatever you want to see more of in the people you surround yourself with. Remember that your vibe attracts your tribe. Remember that? So that means the more I act and behave in my core values, the more customers I will attract that are within those core values. And when I'm hiring people for my team, I will attract those people also. Next thing is your mission statement. There's 5 guiding questions. Look what it says, guiding questions. Why am I in business? What makes me unique? What do I want to be known for? What do I intend to do better than everyone else? What do I want to accomplish in my business? All right. Here's the thing about that. Those 5 questions, once you determine what your mission statement is, and here's the only thing I don't like about this book, is this example. This is a horrible example. Don't use it as an example. It's got to be hot. You know, you got to know it cold and deliver it hot. So for me, the Rick Geha real estate team, right? The mission of the Rick Geha real estate team is to improve the lives of all we serve. Very simple, very direct, right? To improve the lives of all we serve. I was listening to a guy who used to work for Disney the other day. He was one of Disney's chief creative people. And it was amazing what he was saying about how Walt Disney said, no, we are not going to have employees. We are going to have cast members. And we are not going to have customers. We are going to have guests. It was great. Like, to think of that, somebody having that kind of vision, that kind of creativity and clarity in their mind. So make sure your mission statement speaks to who you are and what you desire to be in those 5 questions, those 5 guiding questions that we gave you right there. Keep in mind, this is also a collaboration effort, because sometimes you're going to get too wordy and say too much. And then someone's going to say, what's your mission statement? You go, I don't know by heart. I got to go look it up. Right. And then you're reading it off your phone because it's so long and so boring. Everybody's falling asleep while you're saying it. It's got to deliver a message. Next thing, SWOT analysis. This is huge. I'm going to say it quickly, but I need you to pay attention. Leo, are you going to make sure these people get a recording of this?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, good. So, yeah, so this is the instructions for the SWOT analysis. Strengths and weaknesses are about you, and opportunities and threats are about what you don't control. What's an opportunity or threat? It could be interest rates. It could be inventory. It could be the presidential election. It could be COVID. It could be smoke, fire, hurricanes, tornadoes. All of those things are things you do not control. Unfortunately, and another thing, listen how this goes back to just filling out a business plan workbook, is how much of what bogs down your mind on a daily basis is you thinking and worrying about things you have no control over. What if, what if, what if? Really, seriously, get to work and quit your what ifing yourself to death. Okay? There's 2 things that people do. They what if themselves to death, and they should all over themselves. I shoulda, I shoulda, I shoulda. Stop it. What you did is what was supposed to happen so you could learn a lesson. Now you can change the path by making different decisions based on what you should have done that you didn't. Okay? So here's what I say about that. What should have happened, did. That's it, period. Right? I want you to dissect the words. I think it's a Katy Perry or Band Perry song called If I Die Young. Go listen to that song. It's very old, but it's popular. It was around. It had millions of hits on it on Spotify. If I Die Young. And I'm not sure if it was the Band Perry or Katy Perry. I think it's Katy Perry, but great song, but listen to the words, right? There's so many things about that that allow us to understand what should have happened did. And it was a lesson to move us on. All right. One thing that I want you to do, this is what the sheet looks like. Fill out your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats, and then print up about 5 or 6 of these blank and hand them to people that you know, like, and trust. That you know, like, and trust, especially if they're outside of the industry, because you want to see the blind spots that they see that you don't see. You get that? Now think about that. Amazing stuff. Turn these in. These are going to shock you, hurt you, and move you. Believe me, when you get them back. And tell people you want them to be brutally honest. This is a big exercise, all right? Now, the next part after this really quickly is this income goal net sheet. My net goal annually, this is how much I want to take home after I've paid my real estate expenses. And then there's some percentages here. What I'm going to ask you to do on this is reach out to me or Leo, whoever invited you today, and decide where you might need help on this, because we can get you some help. But this particular sheet takes a lot of exercise and work. You got to know exactly, you want to determine percentages of your, what's your average commission when you're representing a buyer, what's your average commission when you're representing a seller, what are my listing goals, my selling goals, what prospecting activities should I be doing all during the day, and then breaking your goals down from monthly to annually for all the different parts of the business. 4 pillars of income is basically to remind you that you want to slowly but steadily and surely build 4 methods of creating your leads, right? Open houses, farming, door knocking, internet lead generation, my sphere, my top 50. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but you just want to pick 4 and slowly but surely work on them till they become significant methods of bringing in business into your bringing business into your team. Now, the business marketing plan sheet is really just a reminder sheet of what's possible, what you could be working on. Please remember this: most real estate agents underestimate what they can do in a year. And I'm sorry, let me just say that correctly. Most real estate agents overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a career. So if you slowly look at it and say, this year is just a stepping stone to the following year, right? Especially if you're going to be in real estate for a few more years, look at this sheet and say, all right, I'll add that soon. Okay, I'm not doing that, but I got to finish doing what I'm doing, and then I'll add that. These are pieces that we add until we have a momentous machine that's operating on a daily level, right? Leo was telling me about the team he works with that, does over 200 million, that everything is systematic, operational. They got role playing, they got lead generation, they got lead follow-up, conversion, nurturing. Everything is automated and systematically taken care of. So it's very important when you start thinking about the book. I love the other part of this down here. Read 4 business books this year, attend a minimum of 4 seminars. Well, you could just check off one for today, right? Mentor with agents who are where you want to be in income, lifestyle, transactions, whatever. I've bought so many lunches for agents in my career because I liked what I supposed they were doing based on what I witnessed from the outside. You think you know what's going on in people's lives. You don't. Believe me, you don't want to trade places with anyone. All right? Don't compare your insides with other people's outsides. You don't know what's going on for them, right? And they don't know what's going on for you. Your results are based on what's going on in all areas of your life, not just your business. Your goal achievement system is all the different goals you're going to make, whether they're for your personal family objectives, family, faith, fun, friends, fitness, finances, or whether they're goals in your business, like take 100 listings and those kinds of things. You want to write them down on these sheets, and you want to make sure that you answer these 3 questions for every single one of your goals. Why do I want that goal? Why is it important to me? What have been my excuses for failure not having that goal up till now? And then number 3, what's my resolve going forward? Okay. Why is getting 100 listings a big deal to me? It's a big deal partially because of my ego. I want to say I've done it. Another big deal, it'll show my team that I'm really still good at taking listings. Number 3, it'll mean a financial windfall. That my average listing price here is $1 million. If I take 100 listings, that's 100 million in business. Never done that before either, right? And if I fail and I only get halfway, I'm going to have 50 million. Who would be bitching or moaning about 50 million? Not me, because that's just my listing count. It doesn't even count what my buyer's agents will have done. So that has been my excuses for failure. Again, my resolve will be to be more consistent in my lead generating at least 90 minutes a day, 4 days a week, for listings specifically. And that's how you do that. Take that part seriously, because that'll really help you a lot. And this should take a lot of time, by the way, to think about that. Maybe talk to other people, significant other partners in the business, people you like to collaborate with. Sometimes, it's okay, but sometimes your significant other is the last person you want to talk to about some of this, because maybe you just don't like their perspective. That's okay. But remember, they're seeing things you're not seeing. And anytime you say, I don't like their perspective, I'm moving on, you might want to ask yourself, why is it that you're reacting that way, right? A lot of times it's because that's what you most need to hear at that time. All right. So that's your goal achievement system. And then for each sheet, ladies and gentlemen, every single goal you do, you should do a sprint sheet, which is a list of all the activities you will need to do to attain that goal, right? All of them, not just lead generation. If you generate a bunch of leads, isn't there lead follow-up? Isn't there consistency? Isn't there some phone calls? Isn't there some mail outs? What is there? Like, you got to be thinking of all the things that will help me get to that goal. So for each goal you set, like I have a goal now to do 200 push-ups in 5 minutes or less. That's my new goal. I used to have a goal to do 100 push-ups in 5 minutes or less. So if I'm going to get on that goal, what do I got to do? Well, I got to do daily push-ups. I got to stretch more. I got to work out other parts of my body, like my back and things like that. What are those goals? And you work on them. Okay. There's a bunch of those sprint sheets here for you. And this is the last page of the workbook, which is the cash flow budget worksheet. Real estate agents, I'm going to take a deep breath and tell you this, are the most notorious in the commission income business for not having put their money aside to pay taxes. And that's because we say, oh, it's money. Let me pay this. Let me pay that. Let me do this. because of my affiliation with my wife, who's also a financial genius, I got very lucky. I married way over what I possibly could have. But she also knows money really well. So she manages all of that. She talks to our CPA and our bookkeeper. And it's really helped us because for the first time in my life, 4 years in a row, my taxes were contributed to way ahead of the time to owe taxes. And the taxes were completed and sent in either early or on time every year for the last 4 years in a row. And that's never happened in my career. So life on the income side is much better because someone else is handling it. Again, it goes back to collaborate with the people who know things better than you do and let them help you do that. All right. And that's it for the workbook. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to ask Leo to see if there's any questions, comments, ahas, anything that I can help with in the last 4 or 5 minutes.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate your time, man. There was a question. There was 2 questions. I believe that you went through the financial section of the workbook. There was Terry asked, you said there's a net income goal is after real estate expenses. Does that mean my commission paid to company or all expenses? That was a question.
It's actually, okay, so that's a really good question. So every single thing you can think of, right? Like for instance, my wife and I have 3 cars. She has one for her, I have one for me, and we have a fun car, right? But my car, when I go to my accountant, is 100% business. It's 100% business write-off. Most of yours aren't. Most people in the real estate industry are sharing that car between personal and business. When I have personal stuff, I take either her car, which is she's got a Range Rover. I don't got a Range Rover. I got a Chevy Volt, right? So I'd rather take hers for personal stuff, or our other car. I have an MGB, a 79 MGB. It's a sports car. But my accountant knows that my Chevy Volt is 100% write-off, right? So everything that is a write-off to real estate comes off of your real estate expenses, right? If I go out to dinner with my wife, that's not a real estate expense. But if I'm taking somebody I'm trying to recruit onto my team to lunch, that's a real estate expense. So basically, when you say, how much do I want to take home after all of my real estate expenses, MLS dues, signs, marketing, gas for my car, insurance, all of that stuff, what's left? The only thing that isn't deducted from that is taxes and my personal expenses, like my house payment, my fun car payment, all of those things. But even your cable bill for your business, all of that gets written off, and that's what's left. That's what's vital, is to know, what did you take home? Like I had several years in my career where I did well over $1 million in income, but I was taking home like, I don't know, 250 or 3. And that was a lot because that was left over, meaning there was no bills to be paid other than the house bills. But man, when I look back, I should have been taking home 450 to 550 if I'm doing $1 million, right? So I wasn't paying attention to expenses. Now, Casey looks every month. My wife looks every month with my assistant, looks over all the expenses and said, is this one necessary? Even I had a $39 a month bill. And she goes, is this necessary? And I thought about it. I go, no, it's not. And she goes, okay, then it's done. It's gone, right? We're ending it. It's stuff like that that really makes a difference in your future. Now, my wife takes 25% out of every check and puts it aside in a tax payment. We hardly ever owe 25% because after all the deductions, it's maybe 25%, but if it's 25% of a much smaller money, right? So yeah, think about all those things. Because always, like when she told me what we owed in taxes, I still, to this day, I go, do we have that? And she goes, yes, we've got it, don't worry. So it's important to collaborate and to do things with people that know that area of your life better than you do.
Perfect. Perfect, man. Thank you so much. We got another 2 minutes, and there was a song that you mentioned. They also asked the name of the song that you mentioned.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what I mentioned.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it as well. I think you referenced a song, but if you don't remember, I mean, is there any other questions, guys?
Well, there's a song If I Die Young, that one.
Everybody
but
posted
also, and I talked about a song that makes my feet tap. It's a Paul Simon song called Late in the Evening. And you listen to that song today, Late in the Evening by Paul Simon, and tell me your foot doesn't tap. You can't even control it. It just goes off by itself.
Right on. So, well, Rick, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. I want to be conscious of your time. I truly, man, every single time I've heard your talk already, this same talk, and every time I get something new, it took got a lot of takeaways. And I was so excited for all these guys to really implement this thing, because I remember early on in my career, before I even had a business plan and workbook, just the power of writing stuff down. I remember writing my first goals in a shoebox cover. And
That's cool.
that's what I did. I wrote them out in a shoebox cover. I forgot I wrote them there. But 2 years later, everything was accomplished, and this is just think about the comparison. Obviously, this is just way in advance. So just the probability of actually manifesting the goals is just going through the roof. So thank you so much for what you do, man. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your words.
My pleasure,
Thank
buddy.
you for your wisdom.
This was the most fun, man. I had more fun doing this one than any of the other ones we've done together. And you're right. I don't hardly ever say the exact same things when I do this class. So
yeah, you don't. Every time it's a new experience, man. Thank you so much, man. Have a beautiful day.
My pleasure, buddy.
Thank you all for tuning in as well. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to the person who invited you, reach out to Rick, reach out to myself, and the recording will be sent out to you guys later on today as